Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. Today, we're doing Yes Volume 2. Last weekend, we tried to do all 23 Yes albums in one Sunday Prog stream. Wayne, that wasn't going to happen, was it?
No.
Why did you're part of your job as co-host of the Sunday Prog stream is to set me straight when I go on these flights of fancy and just say, that's not going to work, dude. You should do it in 2 episodes. But that's, you're forgiven.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, so we got through to Big Generator last weekend, and so we're going to go from there, starting with Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, and all the greatness and not so greatness that, intervened all the way through to Mirror to the Sky. It's going to be an awesome episode, but before we get started, I'm wearing a brand new t-shirt. Myth of Logic is the band. Sent me their new CD. Well, it's their latest CD, Surrounded by Ghosts. Apparently, they've got a brand new one coming out New Year's Eve. So thank you for sending this to me. It's awesome. We're going to talk a little bit more about whoever this cat is, this Projekt Gemineye. I don't know who that is. But next week, I'm going to announce it right here. Sunday Prog stream. Colonel Ed should be happy with this. We're doing ELP. We're going to go through the ELP discography. It's going to be amazing. And so what is that, November 12th? Yeah. So then the 19th, we're bringing Brian from Rocking Horse Music Club. Finally, we're getting him nailed down. He's going to come on the show and talk about his music project and all the famous people he knows, man. He just sent me a picture of him and Tony Banks. I'm here slumming with Wayne from Pocket Full of Heap, and he's chilling with Tony Banks. Come on, man. Nice. Anyway, my co-host, Wayne, what's going on over on your channel, sir?
Not much. Just did a bunch of reaction videos lately. I've decided to do I know Rolling Stone came out with their list of 250 greatest guitar players. I figured I'd just take the top 100 and compare how much they might have got right, where they're kind of similar with other magazines and other publications, and where they got it wrong.
I like it. That's a good idea, actually.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of writing down.
And it is because a little pulling, pull behind the curtains and a little behind the scenes, breaking down the fourth wall. Wayne actually DM'd me and is like, "We should do all 250 on the Rolling Stones list." And for once, I'm like, wow, it's a 90-minute stream, Wayne. It's a 90-minute stream. So I shut that down. I'm sorry. But it works better in the format there. It really does. We got some really big names in the house already. Hello to the French vinyl addict. Of course, Colonel Ed in the house. How could we miss Colonel Ed? Hey, it's Kyle from All Media Reviews. Surprised he's not up here, but that's all right. Oh, look who else is here, The Myth of Logic is in the house. That's awesome, guys. And, we've got notes in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael from Notes Review, what's been going on over in your world?
Not a whole lot, unfortunately. The last review I think I put out was last Monday, so I've got a lot of backup stuff. So a lot of things need to happen, but not a lot happening currently. So
you got to take it easy sometimes. I mean,
sometimes you just need a little bit of a breather.
You are the fairy godmother of Prog Review. Isn't that what you were called by Roy at the Prog Report?
I think so. Something like that.
It's right. I mean, you've been doing this like nonstop since the beginning of the internet. So, yeah, you deserve a break every now and then. Thanks. And we've got the great Mark Anthony K in the house. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, Mark?
Lots of things as usual, working on some more stuff. The Christmas EP comes out in December. I have another 2 albums done, another 2 Projekt Gemineye albums, but those are going to be waited to be released next year. I'm working on a new Dark Monarchy record with Joe Bailey starting in January. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And plus his record comes out December 1st as well, Joe Bailey's new album, Splinters. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. It's a fantastic record.
And you just sent it to me. I haven't opened it yet. I haven't listened to it yet. I guess full disclosure, since we found out that artists know these things, Michael. They know. You can't say, yeah, man, I downloaded, I listened to it. Apparently they know if you
They'll
have
know.
it, you have it.
We know.
That's funny.
Okay, no lies here. We got to be, full honesty, and that's what I expect as we run through some of these records, man. Let's be honest. Everybody knows that the greatest run in the history of mankind was probably from the Yes album to Relayer. You can throw in Going for the One if you like. I'm okay with it. So anything from there is going to be downhill. So I don't want all the Debbie Downers. You know how it is, man. No band can put out 23 perfect albums. Not going to happen. Hey, we didn't talk about Yes shows. We probably should have. But what a great live album this was. This is before our chronology, but we didn't talk about Yes songs. I just wanted to shout out to this amazing live album. But now, boys and girls, it's begun in earnest. We start with, you know what happened. The whole story of the battling Yeses. You had Yes West and you had Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and how somehow, some way, a John Anderson solo album turns into a pretty good quasi-Yes spin-off album thingy. Steve Howe hated the Caribbean, so he didn't go to Montserrat with Bill Bruford and John Anderson and Rick Wakeman. And I guess that's Tony Levin playing bass, man. You got to turn it way up to hear it. Yeah. But overall, not bad. What do you guys think? Wayne, what do you think of this one?
I think it is for the Yes fans who are longing for that old sound with a little bit of new. I think it was perfect for them.
Yeah.
Kind of said, hey, we got the members of Yes we actually like at this moment releasing something, and listening to it, it's a really darn good record. Yeah. Like, quality wise, musicianship, you can tell it's just fresh, it's new from them. So it's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. What do you think, Michael? Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's definitely, I don't necessarily consider it part of their classic, lineup. Well, I should say, I consider it like their classic lineup of individuals. If only Chris Squire was on there. But I mean, if you have to replace Chris Squire with anybody, Tony Levin is probably the best bet. I, as much as I love Alan White, my heart is always with Bill. So seeing him back into the fold always made me very exciting and very happy. The music that's found on it is fine. It's not one that I will run to turn off, but it wouldn't be the first one that I go to put on. I think it's also a huge breath of fresh air, especially after the 90125 and Big Generator that, some people love, but they're not really my jam. So when I heard this for the first time, I'm like, oh, this is more of what I consider to be Yes. So it's fine, but not necessarily the first one that I would go to.
Wow, interesting. I don't mind this record. I think it's okay, but the electronic drums suck. They're terrible. I don't know what the hell Bill Bruford was thinking in this whole area of going into Simmons drums. I mean, the guy's one of the best drummers that we've ever heard on acoustic drums. Okay, the guy can do with a 4-piece kit or 5-piece kit when most people can't do with an 8 or 9-piece, and he's playing these ridiculous Simmons drums. And the songs overall, I think are pretty good. It is a throwback to the old Yes, but there's definitely some really bad Kumbaya moments, like the Order of the Universe. Come on, give me a break, and all that. Big brother of mine, long. It's a little too Kumbaya on spots, this album, but other than that, I mean, it's okay. And Steve Howe, he's been notorious for this whole, you guys go to the Caribbean and do it, and I'm going to do all my recording by myself, but. Then he when he does this, he doesn't realize that if you're not in with the band when you're doing the music, don't expect to be mixed in very well when the album's mixed, because they're not going to be giving a crap about your 17 guitar tracks that you put in. They're just going to go whoosh, whoosh, take this down. This is not going to be in there, and that's it. And he didn't clue into that for a long time. But it's okay record. I mean, I'd say it's listenable, very listenable. If they would have put acoustic drums on it, it'd be much, much better.
Yeah, I think that's better for any drummer, not least of which is Bill Bruford. But the guy's an innovator, and I think he got bored easily. And I think that explains a lot of his decision-making, whether we agree with him leaving Yes or not. It was boredom more than anything. He hated sitting around guys arguing about whether it was going to be an F or an F sharp. Like, let's go, let's do something. So, you know, it couldn't last. There weren't enough songs, but apparently Bruford has said that they were working on some interesting stuff. It certainly didn't make it on the Union album, you know, but apparently John had talked to Trevor and they were trading some songs back and forth, and somehow, some way, management got involved. Either way, this was really a tug of war to see who would get the services of John Anderson. Was it going to be Yes West, or was it going to be Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe? And we got this absolute abortion of an album. I hate this thing. Miracle of Life is actually a good song. I really, really like it. The Scott Medinas of the world, notwithstanding, I just don't like this album, man. I love the artwork. I was so excited. Hey, the tour was amazing. I'm not, you know, let's not get that twisted. But this album is just disappointing. The songs are just not good. It's just such a melting pot of different things. You don't even have Steve Howe on most of it. It's what's his name, Jimmy Hahn from Arc of Life. It's just not great. I don't like it. But like I said, I do like that one track. I do like Miracle of Life. So that's basically all I can say about Union. Wayne, you spent any time with this turd?
Yeah, I have. For me, my favorite track on that album is Masquerade, but that might be because it's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'll give you Masquerade, sure.
But just think of this as a band. You have two different entities. You have, okay, let's bring 8 musicians, but we're not going to have them in the same spot. We're going to just, this band will record this. We'll send it over to this band to record this. In concept, it just does not work.
Yeah.
Even as good as the S band was. And my thought was, like, I know, like you mentioned, that Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe was maybe working on a second album, and that the Union tour was pretty good. Would it have been just as well to just throw, okay, Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, yes, they open for each other, they have a concert together, and you get that instead.
Hey, we could have gotten that a few years ago when, ARW was going. That could have been awesome, man. Yes,
it would never happen.
But, it's different management, and they're using different promoters, but that could have been cool, man.
Egos. It's not going to happen. This record, it when I first heard it, I didn't like it very much. I mean, but as years have gone by, it's gone up a little bit, just mainly because I kind of appreciate some of the production work in it now. But it's not a Yes album. I mean, there's barely any Steve Howe on it. And for me personally, and I'm curious to hear what Michael has to say about this, but I think that the best songs on here are the Trevor Rabin things. I mean, he gave 3 songs on this album, and those 3 are better than all the remaining other songs that are on there. I mean, Lift Me Up is fantastic. Saving My Heart is okay, but still better than a lot of those other songs. Like, God, like Taking the Water to the Mountains and all that stuff. Like, give me a break. Terrible songs on this album. And Rick Wakeman said it's, is always referred to it as onion. He said he threw it out of his car window when he heard it and blah, blah, blah. But, there's many stories about this record as well. Like his involvement in it wasn't too good. They replaced a lot of his work because they just thought it was just over the top schmuck that he usually does with his stuff too much.
And Mark, don't forget, this is the official beginning of Billy Sherwood's affiliation with Yes.
Yes. And that song is great. The More We Live. I love that song.
Yeah,
I love that song. And there you go. And I think Billy Sherwood entering the fray was a good thing. And we'll see. We'll talk more about that as the albums go. Yeah. But this record. I mean, I went to this tour. I saw them in Toronto when they came on this tour, and it was fantastic. The tour was absolutely brilliant. One of the moments I'll always remember was the guy behind me, drunk out of his head on like 19 beers, and his friends trying to get him out of the seat when the concert was. I was like, "I'm not leaving here until they play Close to the Edge. I'm not leaving." And they had to literally get security to bring him out of the building because he was so out of it and wanted to hear Close to the Edge. But it was a great concert. But that album is just unbelievably bad.
Hey, welcome Kyle to the fray. We knew we couldn't stay away for long. How you doing, Kyle? What's going on?
Okay, I'm not sure how long I'll be able to be on because my wife is bugging me and we've got errands to run.
Boy.
But
the
I
wife.
just check in. Good to see everyone here. Hello, Notes. I think this is the first time we've ever been on one thing live together. So been a fan of your channel forever though. So.
Oh yes, I've been aware of yours for quite a while, so I've always been snooping around, seeing what you've been up to.
I do what I can, a lot to you and your group especially. I love the Prog chats, the quarterly roundtable stuff especially. So, but yeah, no, I mean, yes, I'm not the most savant, the yes savant, especially from this period. But I got a few CDs here that I dug up if we're gonna talk about.
Showing a great one right off the bat, man. But you knew things weren't going to last with that whole 8-piece lineup, and wouldn't you know it? Shortly after the Union tour, they give old Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman and Bill Bruford the old heave ho. You're fired, buddy. You're gone. The remaining members came back with this. Apparently, there was talk about Wakeman being part of this. Anderson still up in the air. Apparently, Roger Hodgson was auditioned from Supertramp as a potential replacement. One of the first albums ever done completely digitally, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not sold, man. I love the Peter Max artwork, but outside the first 90 minutes of Endless Dream, this album bores me to tears.
Wow, really? Unbelievable.
I will say about this album, listening to it, it's not terrible. It definitely has a 90s sound to it. You can tell they definitely upped the production into the 90s. Endless Dream, I don't mind it. It's probably my favorite track off of it. It's Yes going back to the big Yes epics, for better or for worse. But I listened to it a couple days ago, and yeah, there's parts of it I like, but it's better than Union, but it's how much better than Union for me.
Yeah,
come on.
It wouldn't take
really,
a lot to be better than Union.
Really, this album is miles better than Union. I mean, first of all, this album needs to be credited for just for one thing. This was Trevor Rabin bringing music, not just Yes, into the new frontier, because this is one of the first digitally recorded records that were done, like with Mark of the Unicorn and all that programming that he did on here. Sure, it sounds a little brittly in spots, but he was always on the cutting edge of technology, and this album is one of the great examples of that. The Calling, I think, is a good song. Walls, I think, is a good song. Endless Dream, of course, is a great song as well. One of the last epics that they did with Trevor, or probably the only epic they did with Trevor, if you think about it. But I think it's a good album. I think it gets shit on a lot. Excuse my language, but just mainly because of the.
Hey, this is a wholesome channel, Mark.
Sorry, excuse my language, but they get pooped on a lot with this, mainly because
you were at the pre-show. Come on, man.
Because of the whole Yes cover with not being a Roger Dean thing, but honestly, and the whole thing with Wakeman being on this, I think it would have been a huge error to put him on here. He would have just did Moog solos and all kinds of nonsense over top of it that didn't need to be there. And this is, Trevor Rabin's Yes is a lot different than classic Yes, and I just don't think that he would have fit in with it. I'm curious, what do you think, Notes?
This is my favorite Trevor album.
Yes,
and I'm not a big fan, as I already mentioned, I'm not a big fan of 90125 and Big Generator. I like them for what they are in terms of like 80s rock, but in terms of like the entire discography of Yes, they're more bottom of the barrel. This one for me is more mid-tier for Yes. As I mentioned, it's one of my favorite Yes albums with Trevor. I really like the song Real Love. That for me is the highlight from this album. And they're starting to flirt again with the longer epics with Endless Dream that I think they'll continue with later albums kind of in the future. But I will return to this one a lot sooner than I'll return to pretty much anything after Drama. Like from Drama to here, this is like the first one that I would go back to a little bit more willingly.
Hey, we got Low Bait Scarp in the house. I just, I got to point that out. We love you, Adam. Amazing band.
Great album.
Ian's given Talk a 6 out of 10. Honestly, that's probably where I'm at. I said it was terrible and boring and awful. I don't mean that. Yes, never put out a terrible album. I mean, even Union and Open Your Eyes and, Heaven and Earth that we'll be talking about later, they're not awful albums, but in the context of Yes albums, I mean, that's all we're talking about here, guys. So
context
that was
was
the end of the Raven era right there, right? And things got a little bit weird in Yes world. John had moved to California and he had these dreams of doing some shows over there in San Luis Obispo at a beautiful theater there. So we brought the boys in. They were going to do some live shows. And while they were at it, they started recording some stuff. And man, oh man, I'm going to show my Fake Me Out again. But I love what they were doing during Keys to Ascension 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. That's right. During the Wheel of Prog, you showed them. They were thrown off of that. Did that come on vinyl? How did Scott do that?
Everybody's like, I went to Discogs immediately, started pulling it up to see what I'm missing. Yeah, this is a Fake Me Out. It is not available on vinyl, but man, it should be. Oh, I am a big fan of all the tracks they did at this time. Yeah, Wakeman's keyboard patches are a little cheesy. Some of the lyrics are bizarre here, and John Anderson singing about crack time, but I don't care, man. This was the reunion we always were begging for, and had they done it right and segregated the live material from the studio material, had they been on like a real label at the time, all these things contributed to this being just forgotten about in the history of Yes. And that's a shame, man. Mind Drive, that is. I'm a huge fan. Let's go around the circle another way. Kyle, what's
well, I mean, I'm not like first totally in that, but Mind Drive is definitely the key part of all the 90s Yes to me, actually. My favorite thing. To me, it harkens back to the classic, Close to the Edge, Fragile era. It's just a great epic. It's a great piece to me. And I remember when we saw them, my friend John and I saw them on the 2004 tour. They had played it once, and then with Dream Theater, and then they stopped playing it. So I went to the show. We were holding up a side with Mind Drive. We wanted Mind Drive to be played. They didn't play it at the show we saw it. But yeah, Key Studio is definitely, I mean, I like some of Talk, but I think it's a little better than Talk. And one of my favorites from the 90s for sure.
Yeah, what do you think, Mark?
Well, I like this record. I think, again, it was one of those situations where I think that the production work with Billy really helped out. I mean, these guys were kind of fluttering all over the place, and he kind of, corralled them in nicely, sat them down, made them work on this stuff together.
To be fair, Billy was only on Keys to Ascension 2. So that is, and that other track,
but that has the bulk of the bulk of the studio stuff on there, right?
It is. Yeah. But I agree, and that's why the Keys to Ascension 2 stuff sounds better. I 100% agree.
Yeah, obviously, and I agree with with Mind Drive being one of the standout tracks on here. Be the One is pretty good. That is even good. I mean, that is kind of reminds me of the classic things with the whole Steve Howe with the classical bits at the beginning, and then moving on to the whole I mean, there's very much throwbacks and nods to classic Yes in here, and
sure.
And it doesn't sound too forced. I mean, there are moments where it does, but for overall, I think it's not too bad a record.
Notes.
I love this. Like I know of it. I've never actually sat down and listened to the actual conglomeration album. I've only heard it from Keys to Ascension 1 and 2. So like Keys to Ascension 1 disc 2 is just baked into my memory so much because I listen to it so often. Like Be the One and That Is are two of my favorite Yes tracks. I friggin' love it. And I did see the tour where they were playing Mind Drive.
Yes.
And I love that. Like I saw them when they went to Toronto and they had those big inflatable choral things going on. That was like the second time I had seen Yes live, and I was like really into the Yes fan base at that point. Just for me, the second CD from Keys to Ascension 2, outside of Mind Drive, it for me is more of the weaker stuff from the collection of tracks, like Footprints, Bring Me to Power, Children of Light, and Sign Language, I think is the last one. I could be wrong. Are fine, but they're not the ones that I keep coming back to. That is, Be the One, and Mind Drive are definitely the ones that I return to the most. And
Children of Light is the last one.
Children of Light is the last one. Okay.
Yeah, and they changed the order around when they did the Key Studio. They didn't. Do
Oh,
them
okay,
in
that's why. Because
order,
I only know it
so-
from the Key Studio. I
Yeah.
don't know them from the Key Studio. I know them from Keys to Ascension.
Quickly, no. So you're from Toronto?
Yeah, I lived there for like 10 years.
Oh, okay, great. You're a fellow. I'm like just down the road from you. I'm in Brampton.
Oh, right on. Amazing.
You guys would run into each other at shows if you go to concerts.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love this record. One of my favorite 90s records, but there's one more in the 90s that I want to talk about that I like even more.
Well, we're getting good news, everybody. Last week, we were really hindered by some hinky stuff going on in the stream. Apparently, it was network-wide. The entire platform was plagued with some kind of technical glitch affecting live streams. And I just also want to state that I just found out that Daily Doug is sick. His live stream is down. He's not doing this Sunday stream, which is, of course, my number one competitor in this time slot. Not that I pay attention to these things at all, Michael. No, we just have fun on this channel. I just do what I want to do. I don't care about the numbers at all.
Maybe you might have Mike Portnoy watching now, or at least later.
Hey,
He's
subscribed, so that's exciting.
Yes.
But so Rick Wakeman got a toothache and he had to go back to England, and that began the bad blood. The horrible label that they were on was exploiting them once again. Chris Squire making terrible decision after terrible decision. But he and Billy Sherwood decide to go on and come up with something called Conspiracy. At the last minute, they decide to enlist John and Alan and Steve and try to put a Yes album out. Of course, in typical Yes fashion, what did Keys to the Ascension and this thing, what did they come out like 2 weeks apart or something like that?
Yeah.
Come on, man. You can't script it any worse than Yes in the 80s and 90s, just in terms of bad decisions after bad decisions. This is putting this out as a Yes album definitely constitutes a bad decision. This is a bad album. I do like Fortune Seller. I think that's kind of fun. But aside from that, I don't know, man. What do you think, Wayne?
Oh man. So you got Key Studio, which in my opinion is probably one of their best albums since the 70s. And then you follow it up with this. And I was listening to it, and as it goes on, you start to really hear very samey throughout the songs. It ends up being this thing, and I always feel kind of bored at times listening to it. And I know there is the number one rule of making an album: you can make a good album, a bad album, but please God, don't make a boring album. And at times this feels very boring, and I'd love to know whose idea it was to put a almost 25-minute hidden track on this thing that goes
doing that all the time at that time.
goes absolutely nowhere.
The solution is the
Lots of
absolute
bands do that.
nadir of the Yes discography. It's a travesty, Michael. What do you think of this thing?
This is the only one that I can't listen to. Like I was listening to it for the Wheel of Prog as a reminder of it, and I bailed halfway through. It's boring, and I will listen to the Trevor Rabin stuff, even though they're not my favorite, well before I listen to this one, because at least with that, there's something to keep me coming back to. Like there's an engagement aspect to it. This just feels like they're completely on autopilot without any innovation to it. And especially from Keys and from Talk, where there was innovation, they were trying new things. They were really like finding their groove again. This one was I think the biggest misstep that the band has ever had. It's not for me.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think honestly, I think a lot of people, dump on this a little too much. I mean, the first two songs, New State of Mind is a great song. So is Open Your Eyes, and I mean the rest of it is goes downhill from there. But I mean, sonically, it's one of their better sounding records for sure. Easily. And again, with Billy back in here, I mean, this album, I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but this had one of the longest tours of any album Yes put out. They went a year solid on this album. No record before that. They didn't do that with Talk. They didn't do that with, Big Generator. They toured on this album longer than any other album that they did for a long, long, long time. And yeah, there's, songs on there that are not that great. Man in the Moon is pretty tacky. From the Balcony, we could have did without, as much as people say, oh, that's the only good song with, John and Steve. That's a sleeper in my opinion. But, the first three I could live with, and then it kind of goes downhill from there. But, it's not that bad. I mean, I wouldn't fall asleep, but I'm not the one who's going to pull it. I wouldn't pull it out if I wanted to listen to Yes.
I've never opened this up. I've never looked.
Scott, do you have the surround sound version too? Because I do. Because I bought it at the same time. I have this version. I have one that's in surround also.
Oh, Lord.
Right when surround sound was starting to get really big, but
right.
Yeah.
This is the first tour I saw them on, and I remember them playing. The title track I was reading that has Steve Porcaro from Toto even, but
wow.
yeah, I never went back to this. Ironically, this is right when I was starting to get into Yes, and it's like this was the album they came out with, but yeah, I can't. I don't know about. This is kind of my feeling about latter day or more recent modern day Yes, is why I've struggled with. This is probably the first one, especially that kind of hit me. I mean, you could say Union, but yeah, I know my friend John, who's a collector of everything. Yes, always would bug me he wanted me to sell him his wanted me to sell him the surround sound copy of that. But it's like, of all albums to do a surround sound, you do an album like this.
Well, I mean, would it have been better if it would not have been a Yes album? If it were just, Conspiracy is Billy Sherwood and Chris Squire featuring special guests, John Anderson. Man, we probably would have loved this thing.
I think Billy Sherwood's imprint on this and a lot of the 90s and Yes is obvious. Kind of like Trevor in the 80s.
But they needed him, man. They desperately needed him. Yes, are a bunch of slackers, and those guys. If you leave them to their devices, you wouldn't have a record for God knows how long if he wasn't involved with them. And that's the facts. I'm sorry to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got the Canadian stud muffin. Come on, man. You're not the green. He's posting comments. We've got a mostly Canadian lineup going on here.
Scott and I are the only people. And I'm in Minnesota. I'm right near the border. So
yeah. So there you, and I'm in Ohio, which is a border state too. Yeah, Larry, if you're not busy, come on up. Let me put the link.
I know he did a stream for the new Beatles song. He did a. I was trying to tune in for that when the new Beatles song premiered this past week or whatever.
Yeah, I'm reserving room for Larry, so if anybody else wants to come on up, that's too bad. I can only put 6 up because I don't have the premium StreamYard. Ask and ye shall receive. Man, what a beautiful world.
Hi, fans.
When I was just thinking, man, how great would it be if I could have the great Larry Graves on this channel for once instead of me coming on his. Everybody, it's Larry Graves, the Canadian stud muffin.
Hi, everyone.
Greetings.
Hello.
Thank you for being here, Larry.
You're welcome.
Are you a fan of Latter Day Yes?
Yes, I think Magnification is very underrated, and the Key Studio, all of that I feel is just as good as their earlier albums.
I love that stuff. You're preaching to the choir, Larry, man. I'm so glad to have
and
you
may I
here.
say, because I saw the live chat, I think last week, the first 2 albums also, some of you didn't really give them a great review. I love those too. I'm the Yes fan here.
All righty. Well, hey, guess what? The good news is that conspiracy thing really didn't have legs. You need a keyboard player, right? To be Yes. I mean, Billy Sherwood was credited as the keyboard player on Open Your Eyes. That was ridiculous.
And Igor.
But
Igor's listed on here, I guess.
Yeah, he is. 2 songs.
He is. He wasn't part of the band per se, but the only album Yes was actually an official 6-piece was The Ladder.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know my opinion on the Ladder, I'm going to start out by saying this is a late career minor miracle. It's a masterpiece. I love it from start to finish. I like the pop songs. I like the bouncy flavor of some of this stuff, but it goes back to many epics. Bruce Fairbairn's production is incredible. Man, why'd you have to be such an idiot and have to mess up and get kicked out of the band? You were an amazing keyboard player. Dude, leave the women alone at shows, man. You're not in Van Halen, you're in Yes. What a joke, but I love the Ladder. Larry, what do you think about this one? I know you said you love Magnification, but what about this one?
Yeah, it took me until recently to really appreciate it more. And the opening track, what's that called?
Homeworld.
Yeah, there's a point the first few minutes when Chris Squire's bass kicks in. It's like this is Yes.
Yes. It's fantastic. I have to agree. This is one of the best records. I said that before on my channel, that this is one of the best things they've done easily since the 70s. Easily. I mean, and there's a lot of things that attribute to it. And I think, Scott brought up some of them. Bruce Fairbairn, he directed them. He got them together. And one of the key things in the documentary that he said, too, is that he sat John Anderson down and said, listen, we got to focus on these lyrics. Your lyrics are really willy-nilly in the last couple of records. They're all over the place. Sit down and really focus on the lyrics. And they did, and they were much better. And Igor Koroshev is the greatest addition to Yes that they ever had. So again, it was a crime that he had to leave the band, because he's the only keyboard player that Yes has had that is able to play Awaken flawlessly, note for note. Nobody else has been able to do it. Jeff Downs botches that song all the time, and he's terrible live. And that guy
Wakeman doesn't even do it note for note. He couldn't be arsed. He couldn't care less about playing it the way we want him to play it. He's Rick Wakeman. He's going to play it the way he wants to play it. That's why Igor was so good, man.
Yeah, Igor was fantastic. If Igor was a great addition to that. So I definitely think this is a great album.
Yeah. What do you think, Notes?
Yeah, I want to just mirror everything that you guys have been saying. This is easily my favorite record from the 90s from them. Start to finish, it feels much more like a classic Yes album. We haven't had one of those. Like, as much as I love when they're trying something new, trying different things, really the reason why we come back to Yes is the interplay between everybody and that classic Yes sound. And yeah, this one, I've gone to bat for this one, and I think it is, just like Magnification, very criminally underrated. And I wish more people looked as fondly on this one as they do to everything from the Yes album all the way to Relayered. I think you can listen to this record alongside any of those and it wouldn't feel out of place.
Yeah, totally. And that's part of its appeal, but it didn't feel like they were just trying to ape old Yes. And I think Bruce sat them down and said, look, just make the best Yes album you can. Yeah. Like you said, he was sat John down, talked to him about his lyrics and whatnot. I think he had that effect on the whole band. And it's just so sad that this was the very last thing Bruce Fairbairn ever worked on. Apparently, John and Steve found him dead slumped over the mixing console. His final act on this planet was helping put this amazing album, bring it to life. God bless you, Bruce Fairbairn. R.I.P., my friend. A great album. You got any strong opinions on the Ladder, Wayne?
Oh man, to me this is a complete breath of fresh air for Yes. Like, it felt like a completely just rejuvenated band. Like, especially going through some of that 90s period where it was kind of hit and miss. But this one, to me, up there with Keith Studio and even going into Magnification, this is probably the last great creative, at least for me, this is one of their pinnacle periods of writing. Not counting Close Your Eyes, but from Keith Studio, The Ladder, and Magnification. Because the songs on here, I just listen to, and it's like, wow, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
So Norm.
It's fun. It's a fun record. Kyle?
Yeah, it's a big improvement. I've always likened this album, like it much. It's like a big step up from Open Your Eyes, and just like there's a really good energy and a consistency on it. I kind of feel like this album is what I would have liked to feel this about this album, like I'd like to feel about ABWH the way I feel about the Ladder, and that there's no real epics, but it's just like song to song to song. I've still struggled with ABWH, but with the Ladder, I don't know. There's just kind of like a great positive energy, but it's not saccharine, which a lot of Yes music the last 30 years comes across very saccharine to me. But the Ladder is one of the only exceptions.
I don't mind being a little saccharine. You got to know where the edge is, man. That's why I love.
I mean, I guess when this album came out, I was like Dream Theater fanboy for the past 5 years. I wanted something heavy, something badass, something riffy, and a lot of the other Yes stuff, like this album, didn't have any of that. So the Ladder was a much closer to that. I was like, finally, all right, Yes is making an album I can listen to. I'm enjoying, and also it just kind of comes across in the songs, the lyrics, like the band actually seemed to be on good footing and they probably had a good time making this album as opposed to maybe the previous records when they didn't know who was in the band. So that, it's too bad about, you said Bruce Fairbanks, but maybe that's part of it, is that, we lost.
That was a double whammy. Imagine if Igor hadn't have been a pig. And imagine if Bruce had been able to keep that lineup energized and excited for a little while. What kind of a run they could have gone on. But,
Parallel universe. Yes. Yeah, parallel universe. We have Igor still in the band and all the albums they put out since. I wonder what would have happened.
Exactly. But, when you think about it like that, you do the band a disservice, because this thing would have never come out with Igor in the band. This thing is only a product of a band that does not have a keyboard player, and they're okay with it. And they're accommodating it with a very fresh sounding orchestra, whereas Time and a Word, it sounded like they were shoehorning an orchestra in. It sounded like they were doing battle with each other. This one here, man, it blends in so perfectly and seamlessly that I absolutely adore this album. Michael, is this album any good? Should people take some time to listen to Magnification or not?
Well, people already know my take on this one. This is their last great masterpiece, in my opinion. This is their first masterpiece in probably like 2 decades or so. I'm perfectly okay with them not having a keyboardist, because it allowed them to really orchestrate and construct music for an orchestra to help fill in that void, because a lot of Yes's music is keyboard led and the playoff between the guitars and the keyboard. And when you're essentially missing half of the equation, you have to be very innovative and very challenging of yourself to fill that other half. And bringing in the orchestra for that was genius. Like, that's the only way they could have made this work. And it holds some of the best Yes music that they've ever done. Like Give Love Each Day, I've already gone on the record as saying one of my favorites.
I've got that in my head right now. Give love each day.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Chorus is killer.
I also love their kind of poppy track of Don't Go. Like, I think it's so bouncy. It's so fun. It's one that I think is one of their best kind of like pop songs. And it ends on such a beautiful note with Dreamland and In the Presence. So yeah, I think this is a masterclass, and I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, definitely one of their better records for sure. There is one or two, weak sauce, soft as a dove could be without on here, but can you imagine is one of Chris Squire's great moments with him on vocals. I couldn't believe that they let him sing on there. It was great. What a great song that is. Of course, a record that has In the Presence Of is going to be fantastic. Same with Magnification. And one of the songs that really struck me the first time I heard it was Spirit of Survival. That opening bit at the very beginning. What a great opening to that song. Unbelievable. I love that album. I agree that it's probably one of their last true classics in that sense. But the tour was also brilliant when they had the orchestra on tour, and it has to be said though that Tom Brislin on keyboards did an amazing job on that.
Great, absolutely
fantastic.
That was largely the reflection, because they had done the symphonic tour. Actually, I was at Nearfest in 2001. There was some guy there. He was just like, "Yeah, I'm the new keyboardist." Yes, and you're like, why are you just a fan at this Prog festival? Now you're the keyboardist of Yes. And we didn't know his name, and they were talking about Tom Bilslin. I guess he's like totally like nervous, and he auditioned for them and everything, because obviously Igor wasn't with him at that point. But Yeah, Magnification to me is just like it's really a reflection of them playing the whole orchestral thing, and they didn't have a keyboardist, so they just did that whole thing with the string section.
Yeah. What do you think of the album cover, though, Larry?
Very disappointing. And I guess that was John Anderson that was pushing for it instead of Roger Dean doing it.
I don't even know what that is on the back, by the way.
Actually, the guy who did it, we did an interview with him on the Yes Music podcast. Bob Selka, I believe his name is.
I have no idea.
He did a bunch of stuff, and he's also the guy who did all the artwork and all the graphic stuff on the DVD for the Symphonic Live. So he's also the guy who did all that.
It's not Roger Dean.
No, it's not. It's Bob Selka.
Yeah, Bob's okay. I think it's the only Yes album that's in purple or whatever. I don't think there's another.
There you go.
With that color. Maybe they were Prince fans or something. I don't know.
Well, lo and behold, kiddies, as fate would have it, you knew the good times couldn't last. It was a good tour. This is a great album. I'm just wondering a little bit how much this album got hurt by the orchestra. I think it might have made people a little bit scared. That and the fact that it came out, the day before 9/11?
On 9/11.
Yeah.
Or
it was 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like right around there. So people weren't really too worried about a new Yes album. They maybe had other things to worry about. Probably didn't help. But for whatever reason, this album really doesn't get the credit.
Scott, there were like 3 different versions, or maybe Mark, like one with a bonus track. I remember my friend.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So you had to buy all 3 versions to get each bonus track.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
So
good marketing ploy for the fans.
Somebody was talking about the alternate universe yeses. There have been so many of them. Well, Rick Wakeman did come back to the band after Magnification, but they didn't record anything. So, he decided to, have his son kind of sit in for him. And then John Anderson gets sick and all that. But there was this alternate version of the band before Fly From Here. This Oliver Wakeman era of the band could have really been something cool, man. I've been given this EP.
Yeah.
I don't know, is it an EP? I don't know what it is, but this thing's really good, man. It's Benoit David on vocals, Chris Allen and Steve, man. This is good.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. Honestly, I said when that came out, I would have those songs on there are so good. They should have easily dumped some of the stuff from Fly From Here and put that on there. It was way better, some of the songs on this than Fly From Here. I mean, I think it's a crime, honestly, that Oliver didn't get to stay for Fly From Here. He was such a great keyboard player, and it shows here on that record, his songwriting. I would have took him over Jeff Downes any day of the week. Any day of the week.
And we understand why Jeff Downes was brought in. We knew we knew what Steve, Chris, and Alan were trying to do. They were trying to create drama part 2 by bringing in, the drama lineup as much as possible. So I get it, but it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, not least of which I don't think Rick Wakeman's ever really forgiven Steve for firing his son. And I think that's a lot of the heart of the rift that they've got between each other. But
wasn't part of the reason why Jeff got brought in also because Steve had played with him in like the Asia reunions?
Yeah,
it's because of Trevor Horn. That's why they brought him in, because Trevor Horn wanted to do another thing with him with like a Fly From Here from long ago. They brought him back into their buddies. Those two are like 2 peas in a pod. That's why he's brought in.
Yeah, when artists get to be a certain age, they're working with people they want to work with. They're not as concerned with, I know we could create magic on this new record. They don't care. They're old men. They just want to work with the people they want to work with. And if I don't get along with you, I don't care what the fans want. I ain't going to work with you. And I think that's sad. I do feel bad for Benoit David. I think he, too, got really in a bad situation where they were touring him too much. He wasn't used to singing 200 dates a year, and his voice got burnt out. So see you later. And and then we get a new guy. But before we get into that, they actually did put out a full-length album with Benoit. I don't have it. I've got the return trip on vinyl. I should probably get it, but it's going for like
I've been looking for it.
So
yeah, I remember when it first came out. Yeah,
I should have gotten it.
It was hyped up. That was really a big deal when that came out for a lot of people. I remember because me personally, who loves drama, I'm like, this will be the Yes album that I'm gonna totally get into, and
and
It wasn't.
and
it really wasn't. I felt like it's like this was supposed to be much better. It's all right, but come on, it's drama. Drama's fantastic. It's I don't know. I maybe was a little harsh on Benoit David and whatever. I need to give it a second go. Probably I need to hear that. I never heard the Trevor version either.
Well, the
good.
Trevor version. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say the Trevor version. I think the only thing I'll say about it is the Trevor version should not have happened. I don't care that he's the guy who wrote it. I don't care if he's the guy that produced it. The original idea was to get Benoit to do it. He was supposed to just come in, produce the tracks, and that's it. And then, again, this is where ego comes into play. I'm Trevor Horn, blah, 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 blah. Look at me. I'm a big producer. So he's going to come in and redo all the vocals again and come in and do it. And honestly, I don't think his vocals are better than Benoit at all. I like the original version much better. And all that extra stuff that he added to it, I just think it's just not even needed. I think that the original version is the better version. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
No, not at all. I mean, I was going to basically comment on that myself. I much prefer the original, only because I feel like what Trevor was doing in the return flight, he kind of chopped up the Fly From Here suite a little too much to make it a little bit more disjointed. Whereas on the original, I feel like it flows a little bit better. I think that there's a little bit more of like a flow to it that works. And I really love this album. I don't love it as much as like the Ladder or Magnification, but as a follow-up to Drama, I think it does a really good job. Like I always thought that this was the album that we should have gotten in the 80s rather than what we got in the 80s. But like the Fly From Here,
Drama.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I love the Fly From Here suite. I think that's one of the best like bigger epics that we have gotten from Yes. The second half, though, I'm not as much of a fan of. Like The Man You Always Wanted to Be, I'm not a big fan of. I think the only one that I really enjoy is Into the Storm.
Yeah, me too. That's my.
So it's like this album has one really good epic and one pretty good song, and the rest is a little bit forgettable, unfortunately.
That's why they should have took those other tracks from the EP and put them on side B.
Make your own version of Fly From Here and add the tracks to the EP instead.
Yeah, which I only heard that EP back in 2019 when they produced it and put it out as like an that EP plus a bunch of live tracks.
Yeah, that was the live album. Yeah.
So that's the only time I heard it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this would have worked perfectly with Fly From Here. So. Yeah. And I didn't think that the return trip really added anything or was really needed. Like, I'm glad we have it so I can choose not to listen to it.
Yeah.
And, wouldn't you have it? Yes could never really keep their act together. I think there was a future in that lineup, but of course it wouldn't last. And Benoit David shown the door, and we get this dude named John Davison. And he came to us via, what wasn't it? Taylor Hawkins?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Chris Squire. And we're pretty excited because if you're a Glass Hammer fan like me, you already knew this cat. Yeah. And I really think the 3 albums he sang on Glass Hammer are the 3 best Glass Hammer albums. So I was really excited, man. And then this came out.
I know. Oh, God.
Come on. Larry, what happened?
I have no idea. I've never listened to it.
Oh, you're a wise man.
I'm a John Anderson.
You're a Yes fan? Come on.
Yes, I'm a Yes fan.
And you never listened to it.
No.
Yeah, this was a real bummer for me. Apparently, Steve did not want to record this album at all. He had no desire to do any recording at this point. Such a sad fact that this is the final album with Chris Squire on it. It does make me cry a little bit. But, after the tears are shed and, the coffee spills have dried up, you look down and you say, you know what? There's a couple songs that aren't terrible on here. Subway Walls is okay. Believe Again is decent. To Ascend, I like it all right. Light of Ages is decent. It's it's just not. There's no energy here, man. Roy Thomas Baker was brought on to produce this, and I could have done a better job producing this album. I could have. Tell me, what do you think, Wayne? Heaven and Earth.
I'm going to shock a lot of people. I actually don't hate this record. I don't think it's the worst thing they ever did. But I do agree there does have that feeling of lack of energy to it. But so, like you said, Subway Walls is a fantastic song.
Yeah,
At least in my opinion, I really like that song. But the one thing I like about it is they kind of flirted with these shorter song lengths, a bit more palatable for people. And listening to it, I remember listening to it, I'm like, you know what? Because all I heard was this is an absolutely terrible album from people. And the more I listened to it, the more I'm like, yeah, it has its moments, it has its problems, but in my opinion, I'll listen to this over some of the other stuff they've released any day. Like that's just my opinion on it. I know. What do you think, guys?
I don't know. This album I find is like very geriatric. This is like very like old man music, like totally like.
I should go listen to it.
It's horrendous. Like I mean, the first two songs on there are maybe the most listenable things, and then Subway Walls, but it's just so. Like it sounds like they've given up. Like it really sounds like there's no effort in there. And like I said, the biggest crime about this is that this is Chris Squire's last album. He should have been out on a much stronger album than that. You know, it's unbelievable that was his last record. I mean, and it's just not well done. I mean, and Roy Thomas Baker, for all the credit that he's gotten for all the things he's done over the years, he did a terrible job in this. I mean, you have to bring Billy Squier in to save it and to finish it because he did such a crap job on it. So, I mean,
I wish they would have brought Billy Squier in. It would have been a lot better. They brought
Billy Squier.
What the... Yeah, man.
Billy Squier.
Yeah,
awesome.
Billy saved him again.
The tour, though? Did you guys? I did see the tour. I actually did get to see Chris on that tour. I kind of feel weird because he died like less than a year later. But the tour had Sid Arthur open, and it was still a pretty good tour. But you're right. My friend and I, we tried listening to it on the way down and way back. We went to Madison, Wisconsin, and it was just like, I don't know about this. So if they play like one song, and that would be fine.
Yeah. Good old Heaven and Earth. I love this album cover, though. I think the album cover is real neato. I love the treatment on the Yes logo.
Michael, did you give it the big rating on the wheel or what?
Luckily, I wasn't given that one. But this album, the best I can say is that it's forgettable. I mean, I know I reviewed it when it first came out, and I think geriatric is the perfect descriptor for this. It's just I don't know. There's nothing for me to come back to. I will listen to this over like Open Your Eyes, but only like I can get through this album, whereas I couldn't get through those other ones. But this one, I don't know. I
think it's shorter than Open Your Eyes, at least.
And that's one of the big things I at least enjoy for that one. You know, like it's shorter, but yeah, there's
the best thing we can say about it is, hey, at least it's shorter.
At least it's shorter.
Thank God it's over.
That's it. Yeah, there's nothing for me on this one.
I haven't shown this off yet. I mean, I've been rocking this thing for a while, and I just need to show the peeps. I've been rolling the Hello Kitty.
My wife and I went to the Hello Kitty truck. Oh, okay. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Now I'm gonna have to buy one of those for my wife. Thanks, Scott. Portnoy did a Hello Kitty drum solo.
He did. Back to Portnoy, man. Everything goes back to Portnoy or yes on the Prog Corner. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, you long-term viewers, but if you watch this channel long enough, it'd be like a drinking game. If you say Portnoy, you take a shot. That's the Prog Corner. Absolutely. So we lose Chris and we gained Billy Sherwood. We knew he was going to be back one day anyway. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate enough to see the sixth show ever without Chris Squire. They had the spotlight on his Rickenbacker and they played Onward, and it was a really moving moment. But, we go on to 2022 and we get The Quest. Actually, Jay Shellen's on here a little bit, so we get a little foretelling. For me, certainly an improvement over Heaven and Earth. A great album cover. The detail on this, the Roger Dean work here is incredible. I like it. There's certain songs I don't care for, and the energy level is still really low. They're figuring some things out harmonically and in terms of songwriting. But man, this thing just plods along, and there's zero energy to it. It's better, but it's still not great. I like it. I don't love it. What do you think, Larry? Have you heard this one?
I haven't heard it. No.
Yeah, you have.
The Yes Fan speaks.
That's right.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep harping on you, Larry. I love
Okay.
you. I love your
Love you,
channel.
Larry.
Well, I watched your channel for a long time, so I don't think I don't appreciate
No
your
problem.
contributions.
I can take a dig.
I know.
He knew what he was getting into. I told him ahead of time. So
Yeah. Well, this album,
I'm
honestly,
picking on him a little bit. We got Prog Radio in the house. How
And
exciting is that?
I'll
We
just
love
say
you,
this
Kevin.
though, that this
Oh,
album,
yeah.
I was one of the biggest people that was actually believing that this was going to be their big comeback record. I was talking about it for weeks and weeks on the podcast, on the Yes Music podcast, saying this is it. They're going to be back with this record. When they released the first single, The Ice Bridge, I was like, okay, this is good. I'm liking this. It's going to be a good record. And then from there, it went. I was like, oh, come on, guys! Like, really? Like, I mean, I think it sounds okay. That you could tell that they were kind of on the right path, but it's almost like they just didn't have it tuned up properly. Like when you have a car and you don't have the tune-up done properly in the engine, it's kind of stuttering a bit still at that point. But you knew that there's something good around the corner. Because this record was kind of like a precursor to what was to come. But it's okay. But I expected more.
Yeah.
I think it got lost in the shuffle. I mean, part of it's just this day and age. Larry said he hasn't heard it. I mean, they have 23 albums total, and there's so many albums that are coming every week. I remember when it came out, and suddenly, like 2 weeks later, nobody's talking about it, unfortunately. I think maybe because it had been 8 years or whatever. Was it 7? Was it 21 or 22? I thought it was 21.
21.
20. Okay. It just, it also kind of reminded me a little bit of the recent Styx. I remember thinking, if I played the two albums back to back, I'm like, which is which? Is it Styx or Yes? But I kind of just
Don't make me push back on
fully.
that one, man, because that new Styx album was incredible.
People love the new Styx too.
Yeah, the
What
Ice
about you,
Bridge.
Michael? You don't like it or like it? Michael.
Yeah, Michael, what's
Oh,
your
sorry, I
take
thought
on
you
it?
said Wayne.
no.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's fine. Like, I like it a lot better than Heaven and Earth. The best I can say is that it's fine. Like, I enjoy Ice Bridge. And I like that they're starting to play a little bit of longer tracks with like Leave Me Alone, or sorry, Leave Well Alone, not Leave Me Alone.
Well, that was a great track. I
Yeah,
love
but
that one.
like, I don't know, from start to finish, it's just kind of fine. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's filler, but I haven't returned to this one since it came out in 2021. It's fine.
Yeah, I just, you put the Ice Bridge out, and that's a really good track. And then Dare to Know with the symphony was kind of cool. But then you get some stuff like, what is it? Music to My Ears? Man, that ain't music to my ears, man. That's incredible. But I will tell you this much. And you guys know, the last song on the bonus disc, Damaged World, Steve Howe's atrocious vocals, actually pairing with John Davison's beautifully, an incredibly great track. There's like a couple songs I do like on this thing. But you know what? It got way better. They kind of figured out what the people wanted. And, you could call it pandering perhaps a little bit. I don't care. I think it's smart for the band to put their ear to the ground, listen to their fans, and for once, do something smart and put out an album that's actually good. And they did it. It's called Mirror to the Sky, man. This thing's good. This is a good record, man. I know certain members of the panel would probably put the new Trevor Rabin solo album ahead of it, but that's okay.
No way.
We watch your channel. We pay attention to what goes on here.
Hey Scott, I gotta head out, but it's great to talk to you
Kyle's
guys.
heading out, everybody.
I like
care.
the new LS album, but I'm not as big as you do. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Kyle
Take
from
care.
All Media Reviews, good guy, good channel. When he does his videos, that audio is actually better, so don't judge him on the live stream.
Mhm.
But Mirror to the Sky, Michael,
It's okay. Lay down.
what's up? What's up?
It's good, and like whereas the previous album that we were talking about, The Quest, was fine, I would say that this one is good. Cut from the Stars is the first track, I think, since I would say Magnification that feels like a Yes track. I really like that one. Luminosity is actually really good as well.
Thank you, Michael. Nobody mentions Luminosity. And they should.
It's good. Like those two tracks for me are the ones that keep coming me back to this album. And I know that I mentioned that I would listen to Rio from Trevor Rabin a little bit more because I enjoyed that album a little bit more. But this one's still good. Like as I meant, it's a good Yes record. I don't think it's a classic Yes record. I don't quite think that they're back on their A game, and I don't think it wouldn't be right to try to get Yes to be back on their A game at this point anyway. But for the lineup that we have from where they are in their career, like this is a good addition to their discography. And I would be okay if this is kind of like where they stop, So that's, it's a good record for me.
I know you listen to this one, Larry, because I've seen some videos of you talking about this record.
No, I haven't listened to the full album.
Okay.
No.
Just parts of it?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on like the single Cut from the Stars?
Yeah, the single, it was good. It was okay.
Honestly, I think this record is much, much better than The Quest. I love this album. The only song on this album I think that was a stinker, I don't know why they put it on here, was Living Out Their Dream. That song is just not a good song. If they would have pulled that song out,
songwriting credit.
Yeah, well, if they would have pulled that out, then this would have been almost, in my opinion, a solid 8, almost a 9. This album sounds great. The orchestra fits really nicely on this record. The epic song on here, like the Mirror to the Skies, is fantastic. I love that. I love the guitar tone that Steve Howe has on that. But, I think that there's still better to come. But I'm going to say something that's probably going to get a lot of Yes fans angry with me for saying this. But I think that for Yes to get better, as Michael said that he thinks that they're kind of like at this level and maybe they'll stay here and that's about it. I think if they want to go past this level, they need to get rid of Steve Howe, because Steve Howe is the one who's kind of the person now that's kind of dragging them down. I think he should stay as producer for them for sure. He should stay as producer.
Composer,
But get another guitar player, because now when I saw them on tour the last couple of times, he's really been battling with some of these epic songs, like Gates of Delirium. He's playing it not well. Some of these other songs, he's lost his chops. And I mean, the guy's 70-some. What do you expect? He can't do the same things he did when he was 20 or 30. So I think they need to bring in other people. Billy Sherwood and John Davidson, I think, have the idea now of what Yes people expect now, and I think that Shellen is a great addition with them now. They need somebody in that kind of age bracket with them to get rid of Steve Howe and bring him in, and that'll bring them to the next level. I think that's what I think personally.
I fully agree. I think that as much as I hate to say it, Steve Howe is kind of the weakest point at this point. But the problem then becomes, is it still Yes? Because for so many people at this point, Steve Howe is Yes, in the same way that the classic lineup of Yes was Yes. And we're dealing with the ship of Theseus, where it's like we don't have an original member in the band at this point anyway. With Steve Howe being really the only last, even though he started with the Yes album, once he's gone, that's kind of the last point. So I would almost prefer them to just start doing something completely different. Have Billy and the boys do their own, kind of like what Pattern Seeking Animals is doing from Spock's Beard.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, don't continue to do a Spock's Beard album if you don't have those core members, but do something completely different. And I think we might get some really interesting music out of that.
What do you think, Wayne? Wayne, did you listen to this whole thing?
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing. I really like this record. To me, it was probably their best thing since Magnification. Not that that's very many albums to go through, but I do agree that there is a part of Steve Howe that it does feel like it's holding them back. And the great thing about Yes is Yes has always been having fluid members in, out, indifferent. Like I went looking through the discography, and a lot of it, like, to have the same lineup for 3 albums in a row with Yes is unheard of. So for me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? Even if they bring in a new guy that isn't Steve Howe, as long as they're playing the music of Yes, I really personally don't think the fans would have too much of an issue with it.
Yeah, because I mean, look at Rick Wakeman said it himself in that documentary way back in 1991. He says he envisions Yes to be a band that continues well past the time that he's long dead and buried, almost like a symphony orchestra where the members always get changed, and it's still Yes. It's just different people are in it, and the music continues. And I'd be absolutely fine with that as long as the people that get.
I think we're missing an opportunity, Mark, because I think a lot of people would be fine with that. But I think we'd be way more fine with it if we had guys in the band with names like, I don't know, Oliver Wakeman and Dylan Howe. Maybe that would help perpetuate that and, propel it into the next generation where there is legitimacy, even though there's, all the original members are, long gone. And, I want Yes music to be played 100 years from now. And whatever that takes, that's what we're going to do. So Chris was right. He wanted Yes to last forever. And so do I. And I love the idea of Steve Howe kind of semi-retiring, being producer, composer, musical director, bring in some hot shots. We had Zeb in the comments kind of single out Jay Schellen as maybe not being up to the task. He's a bit of a plodder. He's not the most exciting drummer in the world. I've seen him, twice now with his lineup. I would prefer just bring in some young hot shots, man. Just some people that can just go crazy. But it's Steve's baby. He can do whatever he wants. And apparently they're working on album number 24 as we speak. Apparently they're writing it and whatnot. Steve's being real secretive. Have you heard anything about what's going on in Yes Camp here over the last month or so with the tour wrapped up? Are they just going to take a little time off, or what's going on?
Well, I heard that right now, like I said, that they had almost a lot of the stuff pretty much like almost blueprinted as far as song structures and stuff like that. And, Steve is extremely, extremely quiet about this stuff because I know I talk to Billy a lot. I speak to him quite often. And he's always said that. He goes, I can't, every time I say anything about Yes, he's like, I can't talk about that. I can't talk because they're very hush about it. He wants to keep everything close to his chest. But, if it's anything as good as what we got with Mirror to the Sky, then I'm looking forward to another Yes record.
Oh, yeah. Me too. And I know you got connections. I know you talk to people. Hey, speaking of connections, man, I got something in the mail. The great Jeff Shilka, who's been lurking in the comments, sent me these. These are cool. These are like these prints.
Oh, nice.
He said he found this artist online, and he had John. So he's like, hey, could you maybe do Chris? Nice. Could you maybe do Steve? Yeah, sure. How about Mr. Wakeman? How about that? And last but certainly not least, Alan. He says he's got Dude Man working on trying to get Patrick Moraz, Trevor Rabin, and that'd be
Peter
awesome.
Banks.
I'll take all of them, man. Thank you, Jeff Shilka, by the way. That was awesome. I appreciate it. I switched hats. I'm going with the Evership to end this. We're talking about cool underground prog bands. Mythologic sent me the t-shirt, sent me the new CD. Well, the latest CD. They got a new one coming out New Year's Eve, Surrounded by Ghosts. We've got the great one and only Mark Anthony K in the house from Projekt Gemineye. That's very exciting. We're here with royalty, man. What's it feel like being up here with celebrities? It's just awesome. Anyway, we're doing ELP next week. Is anybody up for Emerson, Lake and Palmer next week, going through their discography and breaking it down? What do you think, Wayne? That was your decision anyway.
Yeah, great. Went through pretty much right now. I just started Works Volume 2.
Okay, you'll be ready.
And wow, like the sheer quality of those up to Works Volume 1, like wow.
Yeah,
get ready to temper your expectations though after Works.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard Love Beach, and I will say Love Beach as an album, I don't hate it. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard.
No, it's not. It's not. So that's next week. The great Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Colonel Ed. You are the reason behind it. So, he suggested it. Wayne and I in conference decided that was a decent idea. So that's next Sunday, November 12th. And then November 19th, we've got Brian from the Rocking Horse Music Club finally going to be making an appearance here on the Sunday Prog stream. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be awesome. Michael, when is the Prog roundtable happening next? Any word on that?
I'm not sure. I know that the queue, like the quarters, usually I guess the next one's going to happen in January. I don't know when the next Prog roundtable is going to happen. That's usually covered by my friend Brent over on Similitude of Prog. So whenever he wants to do one. If you guys
haven't checked out that channel, he's awesome. Similitude of a Prog.
Oh, yeah. So, I don't know when the next one's going to happen, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, and then we got the great one and only Larry Stud Muffin, man. The Canadian, the great one and only.
I've gotten into a couple of bands recently. Can. This is the only one I've heard so far, and I absolutely love it. Yeah.
I was just listening to it.
And I was gifted a certain CD, and I've now bought 4 of their albums. The Residents, Duck Stab, Meet the Residents.
1974. Can you believe that?
That's one insane. I won't even say.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
And
so much.
Not Available.
That might be my favorite. Not Available, Eskimo.
It always takes a few listens to get into each of the albums. Yeah.
So cool. I love those guys, man. I've been a fan forever. I didn't know you were into the Residents, Larry.
Yeah.
But I know one band you really are into, and that's the Beatles. You've been spilling a lot of ink, talking a whole bunch about this whole Beatles documentary, and then the new song that popped up. What'd you think of it? Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it right away. Yeah. Yep.
I loved it. I thought it was a fun little song. I don't know what I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but it's better than the last final Beatles song they dropped on us.
Interesting.
What have they been, like 3 final Beatles songs now?
You think it is the final Beatles song? You think there's going to be another one discovered down the line?
Who knows, man? I'm excited though, because not only do you have new Beatles music, but you've got new music from the Rolling Stones, man. What year is this? This is crazy.
That's a great album.
Yep.
But,
I really like that album.
I've given it 2 listens through, and I do like it. What do you think, Wayne? Have you given that a listen? Have you done any reactions on your channel yet?
Not yet. Was thinking about doing it. Kind of going to do a couple songs here. I'm going to do the new Beatles song here coming up next week, and also look at the Rolling Stones' new album, because I've heard a lot of good things about it. Like, people seem to be pretty positive about it. Which, for how long the Rolling Stones have been alive and still kicking and still writing music, it's kind of one of those things where you look at it and you're like, what the hell? They're still kicking, they're still doing it, they still love it. So might as well give it a listen and see. I like it.
This is kind of a subject that Pete Pardo at Sea of Tranquility has been really beating on the last couple weeks, is that we're taking a lot of these legacy bands for granted. We do it even in the prog sphere, where we had old Kyle trying to tell me that, it reminded him of the new Styx album. Stop it, man. Styx has been putting out some great new material. Uriah Heep's last couple albums have been really, really good. A lot of the Jethro Tull, a lot of these bands from yesteryear are actually putting out good material, not just it's all right, like stopgap material. They're putting out decent material, and it's actually amazing because they're not going to sell millions of copies of anything that they do today. Maybe the Rolling Stones might, but Yes isn't going to. So there's absolutely no reason in the world why these bands should be putting out material as good as they have been. Thank God for it. We're living in kind of a maybe like a new golden age for prog, and maybe that's got a little something too. We've got a little bit of a headwind going right now, and we need to stop.
Uriah Heep's been putting I think you're right. He's been putting out great albums since they came back with Wake the Sleeper. Like just one good album after another. They might not be up into what some consider their 70s period, but I'm listening to these. Like Living the Dream to me is probably the heaviest thing they did since Look at Yourself. And to me, it's a great record. Like it's kind of finally that great mixture of 70s and 80s with today. So
it's awesome. And then, you know, you can look at like Cheap Trick or Alice Cooper or John Cougar Mellencamp. You know, there's a lot of these artists that are actually putting out decent music. And then you add to it the almost infinite number of new bands that are popping up. Like every time I look on Notes YouTube channel, they've got some new band they're talking about. It's just insane. How do you keep up with it all if you've got, you know, the new bands?
Got the finger on the pulse.
The classic bands.
Try.
It's insane.
Yeah, I'm working on a spreadsheet right now, and I'm hoping to get another 20 album reviews out in one single video, just because I need to clear those out of my slate before I start talking about some of the other stuff that I want to talk about, like the new King Gizzard album. I just listened to the new Green Lung album that I can't get enough of. You know, the new Moon Safari's new album is just there's no words. But I want to get these other album reviews out first before I can start gushing about those other ones.
Yeah, that new Moon Safari. I think you and I have been real blessed that we got a hold of those advanced review copies. And I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that this thing is going to be on a lot of people's year-end lists, rivaling for that number one spot. It's that good. I can't wait to talk about it. What's the release on that? Is that like December 7th or something?
It's December something or other, that's for sure.
It's an odd time to release.
I'm going to try real hard not to talk about it for a while.
Same.
It's hard, but so I'm excited because I get to talk about the new Cyan next week. Have you given that one a listen yet?
I have. It's very good. It reminds me of their last album. And I mean, I've loved Magenta, so anything that the producers touch is always good. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It reminds me of Evership quite a bit, like just seeing your the last two Evership records feel very similar to this one. Yeah.
And again, anytime I think of like Evership and stuff, I think of Styx. I don't know why. Just circling back to those great, epic, legendary bands that are still putting out good material. And Ian's talking about Sparks there, Larry.
Yeah.
Oh, man. How'd you like the new Sparks album?
I loved it.
That one?
It's one of my favorites, actually.
It's a good record, man. Yeah. I think it's almost as good as a steady drip, drip, drip. They're how do you put out two albums that good this late in your career?
Yeah.
Guys are sickening. I love them. But man, this was a great stream, and I knew we'd probably go a little shorter than last week's. We were talking about the back end of a classic band's discography, so that goes without saying. But I like a lot of those albums, man. Magnification, The Ladder, Key Studio, Mirror to the Sky, totally worth people's time. Larry, I hope you go back and check some of them out. But I've got who was it? Gray Ever. Yeah, there you are. Gray Ever. Dude has been on me for about a month now about a Chicago ranking. So I knocked out my 100 women in Prog, and I did my favorite Renaissance. So I'm thinking, who's going to be my next victim? I did Steely Dan a couple weeks ago. I'm thinking I might do Chicago. I think they might be nice. They got a lot of albums, right? they number them, right? So it's kind of easy to keep track of them. You know anything about Chicago, Wayne?
A little bit. Few songs I've reacted to. They're a band I actually want to investigate more, just because, like, even Hendrix said Terry Kath was one of his favorite guitar players, and thought about that. And I was looking at a lot of these top 100 lists. He's never mentioned.
No,
which
he should be.
Should be, and I'm like, wow, okay. So I figured once I'm done that list, I might actually do a deep dive on bands, and Chicago might be one band I start with because they really do intrigue me.
Larry, look what you've begun. Look what you've done to me. Now Zed wants me to rank the Residents album. Michael,
They
how
have
many
a
albums-
few.
They've got a bunch, man. I
They
don't think I
do.
can do
Yeah.
that. I think it'd probably be like my ranking the Zappa albums. I'm not going to listen to all of them, you know.
Another great
I'm gonna rank
band.
70 albums. Hey, there we go. Sweet.
The sensational Alex Harvey Band.
We love the guy, Alex Harvey. You know, Myth of Logic, thank you so much for your very generous package that you sent me with the new album. And the t-shirt. It's awesome. You know, I encourage all bands out there, you know, send me stuff. I just might talk about you on the big show. It's great. Have I ranked Focus? No, I have not yet. Focus is a good call. You know, hard to believe that I've only been doing this for 23 months. So there is still, you know, some low-hanging fruit that I can pluck from time to time. It's getting harder and harder, though, as Michael can attest after you've had a channel for a while, trying to do things, keep it fresh. But what I've learned is you can do the same episode 20 times. You just need to rebrand it and call it something else. And lo and behold, that's kind of what this whole thing was about. How many times have we done this episode where Scott gets to talk about Yes? But here we go. Not only did we do it again, but we made it a two-parter, you know, 3 hours of us just talking about the greatest band of all time. You know, time well spent. I appreciate everybody that, you know, you come home from church and you spend time with us. And we're just talking about prog rock. That's all we do, Larry. You talk about a lot of different stuff on your channel, but we keep it focused on one thing. I'm jealous. I wish I was funny like you, telling jokes, cracking jokes, and, you know, entertaining the folks that way. I don't have that gift, but I really thank you for being on the big show, everybody.
Thanks,
Larry Graves, the Canadian Stud Muffin, man, classing up the joint, making us look good today on the Sunday Prog stream. Mark Anthony K from the great Projekt Gemineye, once again chiming in with all his wisdom, his knowledge, and his incredibly deep Rolodex. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. The one and only, the godfather of prog on YouTube. It's Michael from Notes Reviews. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
We should always do more together. You know, we're so busy, and just seems like we're always doing stuff, and we should do more stuff together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And last but not least, give it up for my co-host, Wayne, the long-suffering Wayne, the abuse he puts up with, the absolute infamy that he's got to put up with as he's sitting there waiting patiently to say something. You know, it's all right, dude.
It's all good, man. I'm getting a musical education from a lot of you, learning a lot of stuff I didn't know, bands. It's really great. Like, I know I've heard a lot of people say, what do you mean you've never heard of these bands before? But where I am, like our HMV or CD Plus shut down in like 2008. And if I want to listen to music, I have to drive an hour to Edmonton to pick any of it up. So
Danny from Asheville, I'm writing it down. Yes, and how have I not ranked the Glass Hammer up? How has this not happened already is beyond me. I'm writing it down. It will be done, but I think I'll do Chicago first. I don't know. It's going to be Chicago or Glass Hammer next in the ranking because I'm just nothing if not a ranking machine. We certainly love to, you know, do album reviews and stuff, but, you know, we look at the numbers and we see that, you know, if I'm ranking the colors on the rainbow, I'm probably going to get a better numbers than if I'm talking about a brand new prog rock album that I love. But hey, whatever. It's, you know, it's life. We deal with it. Anyway, it's the Sunday Prog stream, boys and girls. I love you guys so much. To all my guests,
Thanks, Scott.
It was a blast. I will put a link to part 1 in the description, and also as one of the little end screen thingamajig, you know, whatever. we'll do that too. Until then, we're doing ELP next week. It's going to be awesome, boys and girls. I love you guys. Have a great remainder of your Sunday. Don't watch any NFL games, man. It's going to burn your brain cells. Listen to prog music instead.
Yeah.
Free to bet. Peace in the Middle East. God save the king. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace, folks.